Welcome back YouTube, welcome to another video. In today's video, unfortunately, it's stripping my engine back down. If you watched my last video and you seen what happened at the drag strip, and we knew that it blew the head gasket and it got water in and what we thought happened, well, unfortunately what I thought happened at first is not what happened. It's actually worse than what we thought. So obviously the hose popped off, and we thought that the water went through the intake and it basically like hydrolyzed itself. So looking into it, that's not what's happened. The hose popping off was actually a knock-on effect from the head gasket, but that's basically, it's got too hot. So what's happened is it's got too hot. It seems to be, so 1, 3 and 5 on the back of the engine, which is where the manifold is, all for the 3 of these have got hot. Really hot. You can see it on the head. So it's done the head, it's melted a bit out of the head and the firing gone, so that's what the head gasket's gone that way. But it's melted a bit of the head, so it's going to need a head. And then as for the block, I'm not too sure yet. So 1, 3 and 5 at the top of each cylinder, there's like a little bit of like aluminium, like the piston's welded a bit to the bore basically. You can't, the top of the pistons look alright, which I'll show you in a minute, but I'm going to have to take them out and check them. I'm going to have to look on the sides of the pistons. At minimum, the engine's going to need honing and then run the pistons again. But I'm not going to risk it. If I'm unsure about it at all, then it's going to have to have a rebore and oversized pistons, or I'm going to have to get another block. But I'm not sure about that. I'm not gonna make my mind up until we strip this out, because I want to look over the rest of the bearings and everything, because obviously I changed the bearings and the ARP studs and everything, so I want to check over everything before I make a decision what I'm going to do. But yeah, minimum it's going to need a head, and at minimum that's going to need it's going to need honing, probably new rings and go again. But I mean, I reckon it's probably going to need a rebore and oversized pistons. So obviously the meth pipe, I found a meth pipe burst as well, which has been a knock-on effect. So I think it was already, I think the problem is it was already getting kind of hot and already borderline getting hot, and the meth was probably like its only saving grace. And then when they're going down the strip and meth pipes burst, which is then caused that to get too hot, melt a bit of the head, blow the head gasket out, the cylinder pressure's then gone into the cooling system, blown that hose off, because the cylinder pressure's gone into it, so the hose is actually blown off because of what's happened in the engine rather than vice versa. And then yeah, it's just basically had a knock-on effect from there. And yeah, we're back here again, deja vu, I'm building it again. But there's a silver lining to everything. Although I don't want to be doing this, and I don't want to be spending the money, I'm going to change my setup. I'm going bigger, I'm going better. So it does mean it's going to be back to the road again and back to stripping it and building it. But yeah, I'm looking for a bigger turbo, different manifold, probably a 4-inch downpipe into a 3.5 system or something along them lines. I'm going to run more power, and I'm also looking into doing a DQ 500 swap, which I'll be covering it all on this channel. So if any of that's an interest to you, drop a subscribe and I'll be covering it all. Because to be fair, we're looking on the internet, there's not really on YouTube, there's very little information about DQ 500. Everyone keeps it tight to the chest, where I won't be doing that. I'll share everything, even down to like part numbers and stuff, on everything you need to do the swap. But yeah, that's not going to be a while yet, because I need to, obviously the engine and everything else is going to be a priority. But yeah, no, without doing too much talking, let's bring the camera in. We'll have a look at all of the bores, where you can see where the piston stuck to it before I strip it out. And I'll also show you the head. And then after I've shown you that, then we'll jump into like stripping it down. I'll take the pistons out one by one and we'll have a look and see how bad it is together. And then we're just making a decision which way I'm going to go with it. And go from there. So yeah, let's bring you in. We'll look at the pistons first, and we'll have a look at the head. Right, so this is cylinder 1. This is where it blew it out. So I kind of rubbed it down a little bit, but if you see this little mark here, this is basically where it blew out to the water jacket. I will get the head gasket in just a second, and I'll show you on the head gasket. You can see where it's gone, but I don't know how well you're going to see on this camera, but if you can see just there, there's like a bit of aluminium kind of stuck to it there, and then the same on this one, you've got it there again. It's weird because it's all in the same place, it's kind of all that diagonal, so it's there as well. This one has got a little spot there as well, so there's a little bit there, a little bit there, there's that bit there, and then on this one there's a little bit there. It's all right at the top. There's a little bit there as well actually on that one. So yeah, so these are the ones on the exhaust manifold, so 1, 3 and 5. The front ones look fine, I can't see anything wrong with them. And then buried a little bit, I should have got it out first. Let's move this stuff out of the way. That's just here anyway. So there, you can see where it blew out the fire ring. So that bit there is just there, but it's blown into water jacket. So obviously this cylinder pressure has gone in the water jacket and blew the hose off. Now let's move around to the head. So here's my head. Now just looking from this, you can see how hot it's got. So you see how these have got carbon on. This is kind of what a normal engine would look like. You'd have some carbon build up on the valves and marking, and then see how you can see these, how they look really clean. See, these are so clean because they've got so hot. It's basically been blowing the carbon off, and you can even see with the colour in, see how hot some of these have got. But I mean, again, I think the valves will be alright to go again, but I'm going to need the head anyway, so we can look over them as I do it. But this is where the damage on the head is. So again, that there is where we've just seen on the gasket and on the block, where it's blown through into the water jacket. So this is what's happened, it's basically melted a bit of the head, blew the pressure off, which has then gone in there, and then blew the hose off. So I've took all the pistons out, you can see them over there. I've got the crank out, the crank's over there. So we've got good news and bad news. Right, so what we'll do is we'll start with the bad news. The bad news is, as expected, 1, 3 and 5 piston is pretty much done. I'll show you out here. So obviously there and there. That was 1. This one's 3, there and there. That's just because the water and oil is mixed. And then along there and there. I mean, in reality, they'd probably be alright, but it's not, for me, it's just not worth risking it, especially if I'm going to do more and go up in power. There's no point cutting corners. Because it'll just come, I know it'll just come back to bite me. So still, what I'm going to do is, I'm not 100% sure, I'm actually thinking of sending, so I've got a lot of the stuff from Pro Race and they build some of these engines, so I'm thinking of send it to them to see what they think. So I haven't turned it over and looked at the bore yet, but I already know there's bits stuck on the bore, so I'm kind of thinking if I'm going to have to go pistons anyway, I'm thinking I might as well maybe go oversized. Obviously they're 84, is it worth going 84.5 and just boring the block anyway? I mean, in reality, the way the bores look, they'd probably get away with a hone just because they're at the top, but I don't know. If I'm going to get pistons again, I don't know if it's worth doing that or whether it's just worth boring it out. So I've got, because obviously the block had done 100k before I built it, and then the people I sent it to, they were just like, they were old boys, and they did like, I mean, they even said they couldn't rebore it, and I don't think this is like their norm. They don't build like high-powered race engines. They just build like, they had a lot of old school stuff and like agricultural and stuff like that. So I'm not too sure how close they're going with tolerances. They told me the block was all right, and I've been all right. I mean, I think I did the ring gaps a little bit too big, so I do get a lot of blow by. So ring gaps is something I wanted to sort anyway. So I'm going to need new rings. So I'm kind of thinking I might just bore it out and start with a fresh bore, but I'm probably going to send it to Pro Race and let them tell me what they think I should do, kind of thing, because when it comes to the specs and the machining, I just don't have the equipment and stuff to be doing it all here, so I don't really want to get into trying to measure all of that out. So I think I'll leave that to them. The other bad news is, I don't know how this has happened. I'll show you one here, then I'll bring you over. So, somehow, the crank pulley has spun. When I tried to take the crank pulley off the crank, I actually used a pull-up to get it off, it was that bad. And obviously, usually it's meant to have like the little tang, bit inside that's like a keyway that's made into the puller. So that, when I took it off, that fell on the floor and it's damaged the end of the crank a bit, which is an absolute pain in the arse. Now, I don't know whether it can be cleaned up or not, and then just have a new crank puller. It is an OEM crank puller. It was the one that was on the car from when I bought the car, and I put the OEM bolt in and it was a new one. So I'm kind of confused of how that's happened, because it shouldn't be under massive load. I deleted the aircon, so there's not enough, it's only spinning the alternator, the water pump, and then one guide, one tensioner. So I don't know whether that's me a fitting error, or whether it's come loose and then spun and tightened itself, or what. I don't know what's gone on there, but unfortunately it's damaged the end of the crank. Whether it can be fixed or not, I don't know. I'm kind of leaning towards the fact that I don't know whether just to buy a second-hand engine, so because I need a head anyway, and I need a puller. So I'm thinking if I buy a second-hand engine, I'd then have a crank if I do need it. I'll probably see what Pro Race think. So, and I'll have a puller, or I'll just get a new puller, and I'll also have a head because I need a head. I mean, I've seen an engine for about 600 quid and a head's about 300 anyway. So I'm kind of thinking, might as well buy another engine, just keep it as a spare. And I mean, they could even use that block, but I don't know. So they're the bad bits. I will bring you over to look at the crank in a minute to show you what the damage on there, but we'll just jump into the good bits why I've got the camera set up there. So basically the good bits are the bearings for the crank and everything. They look alright. Rods, from what I can see visually looking at them, the rods look alright. So that was number one. So that was the one that basically blew out into the water jacket. And visually, to my eye, they look straight. I can't see a problem. Looking on every angle, I've looked around them, I can't see anything wrong with them. So I believe the rods are alright. As for the bearings, the rod bearings, they've kind of got, I don't know how well you can see it, they've got some marks on them, but you can't feel it whatsoever. And obviously these were the, what they're called? They were like the black one, King Race bearings, and they were like the black ones. So they had a black coating on, so obviously a lot of the black coatings come off. So I don't know whether it's just the staining from where the black coatings come off, but there is some like silver shiny bits that look like scrapes, but when you feel all of them, I can't feel anything on them. But yeah, as for the rest of the crank, everything looks perfect on the crank, except for the end bit where the crank pulley was, which is kind of, I don't know how bad it is. I don't know whether I could just clean it up and then put a new crank pulley onto the keyways back there and then it'll be alright. But yeah, the bearings inside here I'll show you again in a minute, but yeah, they all look alright. So everything kind of looks alright other than the pistons really, and that bit on the crank, and obviously the head. So we need a head, pistons, and then I'm hoping the crank can be fixed, just because the crank does look quite good and I already did the tolerances on it. So, but then again, if I get a second-hand engine, it don't really matter. The only other thing I can think is that was like a forged crank, so it was out of the older engine, whereas the rest of the pulleys off of Mark 5. But as far as I'm aware, they're exactly the same crank, other than one's cast and one's forged. So as far, because I know that if you had like an older one and you tried to buy a crank, they would sell you a cast one. So someone told me. So that's apparently they're exactly the same, other than how they were made. I think it was just they were just trying to cheap out, basically. But yeah, I don't really know what's gone on there. But yeah, other than that, everything looks sound. So I think I built the engine all right. I think it's purely just down to the temperature and everything, but everything kind of looks all right. So hopefully a lot of it will be reusable, so I'm not spending an absolute fortune. So I think it's just head pistons, and hopefully that's it. But yeah, what I'll do is, let me get a light. I'll bring you over and you can look over inside here and we'll have a quick look. Probably hard to see. There's a little kind of shiny bit there, but again, you can't feel it, and I don't know whether it's just a bit of crap. I mean, they kind of like, some of the blacks kind of come off, but I expect that to be normal. But again, it's one of them where I don't really know, because I'm not an engine builder. I don't know if the black wearing off is normal. I mean, I would assume it's going to come off. It's not going to stay on there forever. We'll try and take you over these quick there, but see, like that one there, it's got that little shiny line, but when you rub your nail over it, and I can't feel anything, not even the slightest bit. It's just visual, so I don't know if that makes it acceptable. I'll try and look in the rods as best I can. But yeah, again, they have, I'll look this side as well, they kind of have some markings in them, but none of them you can feel. So the other pistons were fine, so it's just 1, 3 and 5, 2, 4 and 6, they look fine. So I've got unrated pins on these as well, so they should be reusable. The only other thing I might do as well, because I'm going for more power, these were the stock, I can't remember like the numbers and letters they are, but they're like the low level ARP ones. They're kind of like the bottom spec. I think the next one up is LR16 or something. I'll have to look it up, I can't remember. It was that long since I ordered the stuff. So I'll probably order the next up rod bolts, just because I'm planning on going to go higher in power as soon as I'm doing all this. So I'll probably get the next up rod bolts. Pro Race do them, so I'll probably just get them to do them while they're in, because obviously these are Pro Race rods. So yeah, that's that. I will show you the bore, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the crank back in first, just because underneath here it's got the oil squirters underneath. So I'm going to keep it all together because I don't want to lose anything. So I'll probably drop the crank in, just wind the nuts down, and then I'll jump back in and we can show you the bores after. But let me just show you the crank first. So obviously here's the crank. Everything looks really clean. There's no marks on the crank at all. It looks good. I've been all the way around it, on the mains and the for the rods, all of it. Everything looks good. But yeah, let me show you this damage. So you can see it kind of all the way around here. Let me spin this around a bit more. Right, so if you look here, so obviously that's where the keyway bit got off the crank, and if you look, it's like it's skipped round and it's dragged the keyway all the way up to there, so it's like snagged it off. So that's where the damage is, that bit there. I mean, there is a little bit around the other side, but that's not really a lot. The main bit of damage is from here to there. It's just annoying, because obviously I bought that forged crank and everything else looks perfect on it. It's literally just that bit, but I don't know. I need to get a second opinion on that. But yeah, so what I'll do is I'm gonna oil it up a little bit, just because if I spin it over I don't want it to be dry. So to keep everything together, I'm just gonna put the crank back in. I'm going to put the caps back on and just widen the ARP nuts down. I'm not going to put the pistons back in, I'll leave them out. And then I'll turn the engine over and we'll have a quick look at the bores. And that's pretty much going to be it for today. And then the next video will be what I'm doing and probably building it back up after I decide what we're going to do. But yeah, I think I'm going to take it to a proper engine place. Just to, even if I build it myself, I just want to get some things checked. Because like I said, I just haven't got the tools and machinery to be doing some of these specs. So yeah, I'm going to get that done. So yeah, let me spin it. Let me put the crank back in. We'll spin it over, and I'll show you what the bores look like. Right. So the bores actually don't look really bad at all, to be honest. But what I'll do is I'll spin you around. We'll have a look. So this would be one. See, it's hard to get the light on that there. See, there's a big line there, but you can't feel it at all. You can still see the like cross hatching from it being honed, but I don't know why you can see with or without that light. I'm trying to hold it like this, but yeah, there's just a little bit of aluminium stuck there. That bit there and there.
and then that bit there. But generally speaking, they don't really look bad. I mean, you've got the colour in here. That's because the pistons are tilted and the rings only go up so far. So you got this sort of coloured bit here, but generally speaking, they look pretty good. And you can't, any of these marks, you can't really feel any of them. The only bits you can feel is where the aluminium stuck to it. So yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, if all the balls are within tolerance, I think the marks will be good enough with a hone. But like I said, I think I'm just going to leave it down to them to make a decision. They're going to want the block, is going to want decking again. So deck the block, exchange head, move all the stuff over, and the head skin, different pistons, maybe a rebar. I don't know, we'll see. But as soon as I know, we'll make another video. Even if I take it down to Pro Race, I'll probably do a video of me taking it down there, and then me getting it back, building it back up, and then it's just going to carry on from there, where different manifold, different turbo, and going through all the stuff as we build it back up. I don't know if I already said as well, but I'm planning on just binning the meth off, so I'm going to get rid of meth, and because I've got the EMU Black ECU, I'm planning on probably putting a ethanol sensor in the line instead, and getting rid of the meth so it's not reliant on it. So just so when we go drag days and stuff, I can put E85 in it and we can use that for cooling instead. But yeah, I'll keep you up to date. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.